I noticed it in the dark just by chance. A tiny red light, barely visible, blinking up near the top corner of our bedroom wall. At first, I thought it was just the smoke detector or some reflection, but as I blinked the sleep out of my eyes, I realized something was off. Our smoke detector doesn't have any light like that. My heart dropped. A chill ran over my skin, despite the warm night. I stood on the bed to get a closer look, squinting. That's when I saw it. A tiny black lens tucked behind a slat in the vent above our bed, with a faint red glow next to it. It was unmistakable once I was inches away. A camera. Right there. Hidden in our bedroom, pointing directly at our bed. I almost fell off the bed. My hands were shaking as I reached up to yank the thing out. It was small, about the size of a thumb drive, cleverly taped inside the air vent grill. My mind was racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. How long has this been here? Who put this here? I felt sick to my stomach, thinking of all the private moments that might have been recorded. Us changing clothes, sleeping, being intimate. All of it violated. I jumped down and immediately flipped on the lights, my heart hammering. My wife, Emily, stirred under the covers, groggy and confused by the sudden brightness. Emily is 28, and I'm 31. We've been married for 4 years, and I have never felt as betrayed and shocked as I did in that moment. What's going on? She mumbled, squinting at me. I held up the small device in my palm like it was a venomous snake. What the hell is this? I practically shouted, voice shaking. My mind was already in overdrive, trying to process rationally but failing. There's a hidden camera in our bedroom. Emily sat up, blinking in confusion. She looked at the thing in my hand, her face still puffy with sleep. What? What is that? She asked quietly. I jumped off the bed, adrenaline fueling my movements, and tossed the camera onto the nightstand in front of her. It clattered against her phone with a sharp sound. A camera, Emily? I just pulled a hidden camera out of our vent! My voice was cracking. I was somewhere between furious and terrified. She froze for a second. I watched her face closely. Confusion, then dawning shock. Her eyes widened and she reflexively pulled the covers up around her, as if suddenly aware we might have been watched. Wait, what? A camera? Here? She looked from the small black device to me, bewildered. I felt a rush of anger. Was she really acting like she didn't know? Was this genuine shock? Or something else? My throat was dry. Yes, here. I snapped, pointing at the vent. I found it hidden up there. How long has that been there, Emily? Do you know anything about this? She recoiled at my accusatory tone. Why would I know anything about that? I've never seen that thing in my life. I stared at her. It was hard to read her expression. She looked scared and upset. But something in me was twisting in knots. If she didn't know, then who the hell could have put it there? We live alone, just the two of us, in a small one-bedroom apartment. No roommates, no housekeepers, no one else has keys, except the landlord. And he's always been a decent guy, never invasive. My mind flashed to the landlord, or maybe a maintenance worker. But they always schedule visits. This didn't make sense. Someone had to have installed it. The vent cover didn't just open itself. Unless it was her, my own wife, the person sleeping right next to me this whole time. I took a step back, feeling suddenly like I was looking at a stranger. So you're telling me you have no idea there was a camera up there? At all? Emily swung her legs over the side of the bed, looking hurt and defensive. Of course I have no idea. Why are you asking me like I put it there? Her voice cracked. I realized I was towering over her with my fists clenched. I forced myself to take a deep breath and unclench my hands. I was so angry and confused that I didn't even realize how intimidating I might seem at 2 a.m. in our bedroom, looming over her. I stepped back, running a hand through my hair. This is insane, I muttered. I felt dizzy. The adrenaline was making my head pound. I don't know what to think, Em. There's a camera in our bedroom, our private space. Who could have done this? It's either you or some psycho who's been in our house. My voice was rising again, despite my attempt to stay calm. She stood up, hugging her arms around herself. Don't look at me like that. I didn't do this. Why would anyone do this? She looked like she might cry, her eyes glistening. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe she had nothing to do with it. The sheer relief that would bring. If she's innocent, then we have an external enemy. Which is terrifying, sure, but at least I wouldn't be betrayed by the person I love most. But if she's lying... The thought of it made my chest ache and my stomach churn. I couldn't decide which was worse. My wife secretly filming our every move in the bedroom, or some stranger doing it. I picked up the camera again, nearly crushing it in my hand. It had a small antenna and a micro SD card slot. I yanked out a tiny micro SD card that was inserted. There was no marking on it to indicate how large it was or what it contained. I realized my hands were trembling so badly that I almost dropped it. Emily took a step forward as if to console me, then stopped. "Adam," she said softly, "I swear I have no idea what that is or how it got there." We locked eyes. She looked genuinely frightened and confused. My mind flashed through the past weeks, months. Had I noticed anything off? Any sign that she was up to something? Or that someone else had been in the apartment? I come home around the same time every day. Emily's schedule is a bit irregular. She does freelance graphic design. Sometimes she's home, sometimes at a cafe, but nothing unusual stands out. We haven't had any recent repairs or installations that I can recall. Maybe it was the landlord, she offered quietly. Or like some previous tenant? But no, that vent cover looks screwed in properly, right? She was rambling, thinking out loud. If she was acting, it was pretty convincing. The landlord. My jaw tightened. I really didn't want to imagine that kindly old man creeping in here with a hidden cam, filming us. He'd always been respectful. It didn't fit. And a previous tenant? We've been here 2 years, and I've changed the air filters myself. I never saw anything then. I shook my head. It wasn't there before. It's new. It had to be placed recently. I was certain. I would have noticed a blinking light earlier if it had been there for long. We sometimes turn all the lights off to watch movies. I'm observant enough to catch a red LED in the dark, so it was probably installed in the last few days or weeks. Emily sat back down on the bed, like her legs gave out. She buried her face in her hands. "This is so creepy," she said, her voice muffled. "Who would do this to us?" I stood there, still holding the stupid little device. A part of me felt a pang of guilt, seeing her so upset. If she truly had nothing to do with it, this must be horrifying for her too, realizing someone violated our privacy, watched us in our most intimate moments. I remember the last week vividly. We were intimate a few nights ago, right on that bed under that vent. The thought that someone might have been watching, or at least recording, made me feel like I might throw up. Instinctively, I looked around the room again, my paranoia spiking. If there was one camera, could there be others? Without a word, I started tearing through the room, still in just my boxers and t-shirt. I yanked open drawers, checked behind picture frames, inside the little fake potted plants on the dresser, anywhere a tiny camera could hide. Adam, stop!" Emily pleaded. She sounded like she was on the verge of tears. "This is freaking me out. Please, can we just call someone? The police, maybe? Let them handle this?" "The police." I hesitated. That would be the logical thing, right? This is a serious crime. But my trust was shattered at that moment, and I wasn't thinking completely straight. A nasty thought crept in. If Emily did plant this camera, calling the police would be the last thing she'd want. Was she suggesting it because she was innocent? Or as reverse psychology because she knew I'd hesitate? I glanced at her. She looked genuinely terrified, arms wrapped around herself, tears welling up. If she was acting, she deserved an Oscar. My gut wavered. I don't know, I said. I realized I was panting slightly, like I'd run a sprint. My body was in fight-or-flight overdrive. Maybe we should. Part of me wanted to call the cops right that second. But another part wanted answers now, and I wasn't sure the police would get them quickly. They'd take the device as evidence, maybe eventually find prints or trace it, but that could take weeks. Meanwhile, I'd be left wondering, and still sleeping next to a wife I wasn't sure I could trust. I set the camera and its SD card down carefully on the dresser. My hands were still shaking with adrenaline. "Why don't you want to call them?" Emily asked softly behind me. I turned. "I didn't say I don't want to, I'm just processing." I rubbed my face. I probably sounded unhinged. She nodded, biting her lip. "Okay, I'm processing too." A tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away. "I feel so violated. Who would do this to us, Adam?" Hearing the genuine distress in her voice, my anger softened just a little. I felt a conflict raging inside. I stepped towards her and gently took her hands, which were cold. "We'll figure it out," I said, trying to steady myself as much as comfort her. "I'll figure it out, I promise." She looked up at me, eyes searching mine. "You believe me, right? I wouldn't do this. You have to know that." Her voice was pleading. Do I believe her? I opened my mouth but hesitated. I realized I hadn't answered that question in my own head yet. I don't want to think you would," I answered honestly. "It's just, this is all so insane. I don't know what to think. It feels like suddenly I don't know anything at all." She withdrew her hands from mine, pain flickering across her face at my words. She looked away, wrapping her arms around herself tighter. I instantly felt bad. But it was true. I really didn't know what to think. An awkward, heavy silence hung between us. Only a few minutes ago we were peacefully asleep next to each other. Now I felt a gulf opening up. I cleared my throat. "I'm gonna see what's on this card," I said, more to fill the silence than anything. I needed to know if it had recorded anything, and hopefully clue me in on who placed it. My stomach was clenched in fear of what I might see. Emily looked back at me, alarmed. "Right now? Do you think that's a good idea? What if it's... I don't know, what if whoever put it there can see when you play it or something?" I shook my head. "It's just a memory card. Doesn't transmit when it's out of the camera. At least I assumed so. Unless it was transmitting live feed while plugged in, but removed. Now it should be inert." She stood up again, wiping her eyes. I don't know if I want to see," she admitted softly. I couldn't blame her. I wasn't sure I wanted to see either, especially if it contained videos of us. But I had to know. I had to. I grabbed my laptop from the desk and powered it on, hands still trembling. Emily hovered near the bed, watching me quietly like I was defusing a bomb. I sat on the edge of the bed and slid the micro SD card into the adapter, then into my laptop's card reader. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. It took a moment for the drive to mount. There were several video files. My throat went dry seeing the time-stamped file names. The earliest was from about 2 weeks ago. My eyes darted over the file names. There were dozens, each labeled with a date and time. The most recent was from earlier tonight. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. "This thing has been recording for weeks." Emily let out a soft sob and covered her mouth. I felt anger surging again, overtaking the fear. Whoever did this had been spying on us for weeks. They have videos of our private life spanning half a month or more. Bile rose in my throat thinking of what might be on those videos. My hands balled into fists. If it was a stranger, I wanted to break their face. If it was someone I knew, I didn't even know how I'd handle that. I clicked on the earliest file, from 2 weeks ago, trembling with dread. The video opened, a bit grainy but clearly our bedroom. It was daytime in the video, lights on. The camera angle from the vent gave a wide view of our bed and part of the closet. In the video, I saw myself, getting dressed for work. I remembered that morning. I was running late. There I was, pulling on a shirt, oblivious. A surreal chill seeing myself from that angle. Then Emily walked into frame. She must have been in the room too at that moment. In the video, she handed me my coffee tumbler and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. We both left the room, and the video ended shortly after. I felt sick. That mundane, loving moment between us had been secretly recorded. I looked at Emily. Her face was pale as a sheet as she stared at the screen. "Turn it off, please," she whispered. She was shaking her head in denial, tears falling now. "I can't. I don't want to see this." I closed the video. I hadn't seen anything incriminating in that clip. It was just us going about our morning routine. It didn't tell me who placed the camera. If it was Emily, she obviously knew where the camera was and acted normal on camera. But if she didn't know, then she was just an unwitting subject. That clip didn't prove anything, except that someone had been filming without our knowledge. I needed to see something more. Something that could clue me in on who set this up. Maybe one of the videos caught the person adjusting the camera or something. They had to retrieve the footage or check it at some point, right? Unless it was transmitting remotely, but given there's an SD card, they might have intended to retrieve it periodically. My finger moved to the latest file, the one from tonight. "What are you doing?" Emily asked, voice high with anxiety. "This one's from tonight," I said quietly, "right before I found it." She shook her head rapidly. "No, Adam, please, I can't handle seeing this. Someone was watching us tonight." She was almost hysterical. She rushed over and slammed my laptop shut, nearly catching my fingers. "Please, I don't want to see it. Not now, not... I can't!" I jerked back, startled by her intensity. Emily never got physical like that. I understood her panic, though, honestly, I was barely keeping it together myself. Maybe it was better if we didn't look right now, not in the heat of the moment, at 2:30 a.m., with both of us emotional wrecks. Okay, I said, raising my hands. "We don't have to look now." She stepped back, breathing shakily. I'm scared of what's on there," she said softly. She shut her eyes tight, tears squeezing out. "I feel so violated." Without thinking, I moved forward and wrapped my arms around her. She felt small and tense, and after a moment, she hugged me back, trembling. We stood there in the harsh overhead light of our bedroom, holding each other in silence. For a brief moment, it felt like us against the world again, and I wanted to protect her from whatever this was. If she was truly innocent, she must be going through hell. After a minute, she pulled back and sniffled. "What are we going to do?" I took a deep breath first. "I think we should get out of this room. I don't even want to be in here right now." Being watched or filmed in here, even if the camera was gone, made my skin crawl. She nodded in quick agreement. We ended up moving to the living room. I noticed she brought the laptop and the camera device with her and set them on the coffee table. I'm not sure why, but I guess she didn't want to leave them in the bedroom either. We sat on the couch, both of us still in our pajamas. The silence heavy. It was nearly 3 a.m. by now. Neither of us was going to get any sleep tonight, that was for sure. "I think we should call the police," Emily said after a long silence, her voice steadier now but still very soft. "This is a crime, right? We have evidence." They can find out who did this. She was right, of course. But I still hesitated. My trust in her was eroded, and I was still weighing the possibility, however slim or horrible, that she could be behind it. If I involved the police and it turned out to be her, it would ruin her life. But if I didn't, and it was someone else, we'd be risking our safety and letting a criminal go free. We will, I said. But maybe in the morning? I want to think for a bit, and it's already so late. She looked at me like she wanted to protest, then just nodded, wiping her face again. Okay. In the morning. We fell quiet again. I rubbed my temples, trying to make sense of the whirlwind. I realized I had about 10 different emotions swirling. Rage at whoever did this, fear for our privacy and safety, hurt that my wife could even be a suspect in my mind, guilt for doubting her, and underlying everything, an overwhelming sense of violation. I felt like our home wasn't our home anymore. Someone had intruded in the most sickening way. After a while, Emily spoke, breaking the silence. Do you want me to stay out here with you, or should I give you some space? Her voice was small, like she was afraid of my answer. I looked over at her. She looked exhausted, eyes red from crying, hugging her knees on the couch. My heart softened, seeing her like that. I don't know, I admitted. I was so drained and confused. Part of me wanted to hold her and promise we'd get through this. Another part wanted to interrogate her for answers. Another part just wanted to be alone to think. She nodded, as if that made sense. Maybe I'll just sit out here. I don't want to go back in there, she said, nodding towards our bedroom down the hall. She shuddered a little. Me neither, I sighed. We ended up just sitting there, side by side but not touching, for a long time. The initial shock was wearing off a bit, and a dead tiredness was creeping in. But every time I closed my eyes, I imagined that little red light on the camera, and felt a jolt of anger and panic all over again. Eventually, as the first hint of dawn light peeked through the curtains, Emily had dozed off, curled up on one end of the couch. I was still awake, staring at the ceiling. I quietly got up, careful not to disturb her. I needed to think. Alone. I gently picked up my laptop and the camera, and snuck into the kitchen. I set the objects on the table and just stared at them for a while. This innocuous little device had upended my entire life in a matter of hours. I know I should call the police. That's likely what I'll do, as soon as it's a reasonable hour. But I can't shake this gnawing feeling in my gut about Emily's reaction. Her shock and fear seemed real. But then again, would she really admit it if she did know? People can lie convincingly, especially if they've been hiding something for weeks. I hate that I even have to consider my wife might be lying to me. This is the woman I've shared everything with for years. We promised to always be honest and have each other's backs. And here I am, doubting her word when she's pleading with me to believe her. I feel guilty. But then I replay my memory of finding that camera, and I feel angry all over again. I have to know the truth. The SD card's still in my laptop. I'm tempted to watch every single file to see if I catch a glimpse of the person who installed it. But I'm also terrified of what else I might see on those videos. I mean, they probably have us having sex, or at least being intimate. That makes my skin crawl. Were those moments watched live by somebody? Or maybe stored to be watched later like some sick collection? It's violating beyond words. And if Emily did this, then she has recordings of us, of me, without my consent. Why? For what possible reason? I rack my brain and come up empty. We have a healthy relationship. I haven't done anything to warrant this level of mistrust that I know of. Unless she... No, I can't even entertain the idea that she would get some thrill out of this or something. That's insane, and doesn't match her at all. So it comes back to, either my wife is lying to my face, or someone else has been entering our home to plant a camera, and possibly retrieving footage. Neither answer is good. Both are horrifying in their own ways. The sun's coming up now. Emily is still asleep on the couch, fitfully. I'm running on fumes here, eyes gritty, heart heavy. I think in an hour or two I'll call the police. I might also talk to the landlord, see if he's had anyone access our apartment, or if he knows anything, though I doubt it. And I'm considering something that I can hardly even believe I'm considering. I might ask to see my wife's phone or computer, to see if there's any sign she researched hidden cameras or ordered something recently. I feel disgusting even thinking of snooping on her like that, given how we're dealing with someone snooping on us. But I need to rule her out, for my own peace of mind, because right now, every time I look at her, I feel this awful mix of love and doubt. I haven't confronted her further since the initial shock. She swears she knows nothing. If that's true, I owe her the biggest apology in the world for even questioning her. If it's not true, I don't even know what our marriage means anymore. I'll update when I know more. Right now I'm sitting here in the early morning light, staring at this little camera, feeling like my entire reality has been turned upside down. I just want the truth, no matter how ugly it is. To be continued. Update 1. Well, I promised to update when I knew more, and here I am. It's been about 24 hours since I found that camera, and I feel like I've been living in a nightmare. I'm running on maybe 2 hours of fitful sleep and sheer adrenaline, But I did get answers. And they're not pretty. First off, I didn't end up calling the police yesterday morning. I know a lot of people will probably say I should have, but hear me out. After the initial shock wore off, something just felt off about the whole situation. I kept replaying everything in my mind, especially Emily's reactions. Part of me still believed her, believed that maybe we were both victims of some outside creep, but another part of me I had this gut feeling I couldn't shake. I needed to be absolutely sure about what was going on before dragging the police into it. In the morning, Emily was quiet. Almost too quiet. We were both exhausted and tense. She asked me gently if I was going to call the police now that it was daytime. I said I was thinking about it, and maybe we should have some breakfast first and gather ourselves. In truth, I was stalling. I wanted to check those video files in depth before involving anyone else. She didn't push the issue, which I found interesting. If she was innocent and eager to catch whoever did this, I thought she'd be more adamant. Call them now! But she just nodded and said okay. Maybe she was just emotionally drained. Or maybe she had her own reasons not to want the cops involved. We tried to eat a bit. Not that I had any appetite. My stomach was in knots. Hardly any words between us. It felt like we were walking on eggshells. She was still shaken up, kept rubbing her temples like she had a headache. I offered her some aspirin, and she went to take a shower after nibbling some toast. The moment I heard the bathroom door lock, my heart started racing again. I knew this might be my only chance for a while. I grabbed my laptop, which still had the micro SD card in it, and opened the file directory again. I felt guilty and paranoid doing this behind her back, but I had to know. There were dozens of video files spanning 2 weeks. I had only watched one fully, the harmless morning scene, and part of another before we stopped. Now I steeled myself to look through them more systematically for clues. I started scrubbing through the footage, beginning with the earliest timestamp. I sped through many of them, looking for any moment where someone approaches the camera or does something unusual. Most of it was just mundane life. Me changing, us talking, getting ready, going to bed. Even a couple of our intimate moments, which I quickly skipped over, face burning with anger and embarrassment. For a while, I found nothing useful, just a catalog of our private life. It made me so angry and sick to watch even snippets of it, knowing it was recorded without consent. Then I hit pay dirt, or rather a punch to the gut. One clip, time-stamped about 10 days ago in the afternoon, caught my eye. I wasn't home at that time. I worked standard hours, and this was midday. The video was longer than most, indicating a lot of movement triggered it. I clicked play. It showed our empty bedroom for a bit, sun streaming in through the curtains. Then, movement. Emily walked into frame. My heart pounded. I paused, fingers hovering over the touchpad. In the video, Emily was alone, and she had a small stepladder in her hand. We keep that ladder in the closet for changing light bulbs and reaching high shelves. I felt a cold wave of dread wash over me as I resumed the video. I watched, hands over my mouth, as my wife carried the ladder over and placed it directly under the vent. She climbed up until her head was nearly to the ceiling, right where I found the camera. I could see her fiddling with something in the vent. At one point she turned, and I caught a clear view of her face, determined and concentrated, as she used a screwdriver to loosen the vent cover. No, 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 no. I remember whispering to myself as I watched this unfold in horror. On the video, Emily carefully secured something inside the vent. Her body blocked the view a bit, but it was obvious enough what she was doing, and then screwed the vent cover back into place. I saw her tuck some loose strands of hair behind her ear, a nervous habit as she climbed down. She stood on the floor, looking up at her handiwork for a long moment. Even through the slightly grainy video, I could make out her expression. She looked conflicted, scared even. She wiped at her eyes. Was she crying? I'm not sure. Then she picked up the ladder and walked out of frame, wiping her cheeks again. The clip ended shortly after. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. My worst fear was true. It was her. My wife put the camera there. I must have watched that clip 5 times, hands trembling, tears burning in my eyes. Each time, hoping I'd somehow misinterpreted it, that there was some other explanation. But no, it was clear as day. She had done it. I closed my laptop and just sat there at the kitchen table, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I don't know how long I sat in silence, but eventually I realized the shower had stopped, and she'd be coming out any minute. I quickly wiped my face, which was wet with tears I didn't even realize had fallen, and tried to compose myself. I felt a strange mix of fury and heartbreak. Part of me wanted to burst into the bathroom and demand she explain herself right then and there. Another part was so hurt I couldn't even look at her. I just couldn't believe that the person I loved and trusted most had been deceiving me like this for weeks. Why? Why would she do this? I heard the bathroom door open. I snapped my laptop shut and slid the SD card out, palming it. My heart was thudding so loudly I thought she'd hear it from down the hall. She came out in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel. She actually gave me a small, tentative smile. "Hey," she said quietly. "I was thinking, maybe we should call the police now. The sooner the better, right?" Her tone was gentle, maybe a bit anxious. I stared at her, trying to keep my face neutral. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, not to explode at her with what I'd just found. I felt my hand involuntarily clench around that tiny SD card, my nails digging into my palm. The sheer audacity of her standing there acting like we're in this together, like she isn't the very cause of the nightmare we're living. It took all my willpower not to scream. But a cold, numb calm came over me instead. I realized I needed to hear it from her directly. I needed her to tell me the truth, to admit it, because part of me still desperately wanted some alternate explanation. Maybe there was some 1 in a million reason? Maybe someone forced her? Maybe? I don't know. My mind was grasping at straws for anything that could make this hurt less than the idea that she didn't trust me or was betraying me outright. I forced a reply out of my throat. Yeah, maybe you're right," I said, managing to sound reasonably normal. We can call in a bit. I just need to gather everything, like the camera and footage, so I can hand it over." She nodded, coming over to put a hand on my shoulder. I had to fight, not to flinch away. "We'll get through this," she said softly, as if comforting me. Her touch, which normally soothed me, felt cold. I mumbled something affirmative. I couldn't meet her eyes for long. I was afraid my own would give everything away. I think she chalked up my shakiness to residual shock from the situation, which wasn't wrong. Except now my shock was because of her. I told her I wanted to be thorough and check the other rooms for any more surprises before calling the cops, just in case. She quickly agreed, maybe relieved I wasn't hysterical anymore. She even helped me half-heartedly look around the living room and kitchen. Of course, we didn't find anything. I'm pretty sure she only set up the one camera. All the while my mind was screaming, ask her why, confront her. But I didn't. Not yet. After we finished a fruitless search, I told her I'd make the call to the police on my own, that I wanted to report it myself, and that she didn't have to be directly involved if she didn't want to relive it. In truth, I just wanted a moment alone to figure out my next move. She said okay and hovered nearby, asking if I wanted her with me while I called. I said maybe it's better if I talk to them one-on-one first. I stepped outside our apartment to ostensibly get better reception. I actually had full bars inside, but she didn't need to know that. Standing there in the hallway with the phone in my hand, I felt a surreal detachment, like I was watching someone else's life. I ended up dialing a friend of mine instead. A buddy who's a lawyer, not the police. I told him in brief that I found a hidden camera in my bedroom and that I discovered who put it there. I didn't even admit to him it was my wife yet. I just said someone I know. I asked what the legal ramifications were, hypothetically, if I didn't want to immediately involve police. He was as shocked as I was, but he basically said if I have evidence and the person who did it is in the house, confronting them could be messy, but it's not illegal for me to hold off on reporting. He cautioned me to secure the evidence, the camera and footage, in case I needed it later for any legal proceedings, like a divorce or restraining order, or if I decided to report to police later on. That word divorce hit me like a truck. My stomach lurched hearing it out loud from someone else, even as a hypothetical. I thanked him and hung up, my head spinning. Divorce. Legal proceedings. It was becoming clear that no matter why Emily did this, our marriage might be shattered beyond repair. I went back inside. Emily was sitting on the couch, wringing her hands. She looked up at me with those big eyes I've loved for years, and I felt my heart break and rage all over again. "Did you call them?" she asked softly. I swallowed. Yeah, I talked to someone," I said vaguely. Technically true. I talked to my friend. They'll send someone over later today to get the device and info. Also technically true. My friend said if I decided to report it, he could help facilitate it, but I hadn't committed. She let out a breath, seeming relieved that something was in motion. Okay, that's good. What now? I hadn't actually planned beyond this point. I hadn't confronted her yet. A part of me wanted to drag this out, until an officer actually showed up, so I could watch her squirm when she was caught. But that felt too cruel, and also I wasn't sure I even wanted to involve the police at this point. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to confront her. I had to hear her say it. So I just asked, as calmly as I could manage, "Emily, is there anything you want to tell me about that camera?" Her face went still. "What do you mean?" she replied, but there was a tremor in her voice. I felt my resolve harden. My hands were shaking with anger again. I pulled the micro SD card out of my pocket and held it up between my fingers. "I watched more of the footage," I said quietly. "Do you have any idea what I saw?" Her eyes locked onto the little card, and instantly she looked like a deer in headlights. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She knew. She knew. My heart was pounding out of my chest. "I saw you, Emily," I continued, my voice cracking despite trying to keep it steady. I saw you setting up the damn camera. 10 days ago. You, with the ladder, screwing it into the vent. I saw everything. She stared at me, face crumpling as tears filled her eyes. Her lips quivered. Adam, that one word, my name, broke into a sob as her composure collapsed. She reached a hand out toward me, but I stepped back instinctively, holding up a hand to stop her from coming closer. Why? I asked, my voice finally rising. It came out more like a plea than a demand. I could feel hot tears in my own eyes now. Why would you do this to me? To us? How could you lie to my face? She burst into tears, full-on sobbing now. She covered her face with her hands and sank down onto the couch. I stood there, shaking, waiting for an answer that didn't come. After what felt like an eternity, she looked up at me, makeup smeared, eyes red and desperate. Through choking sobs, she managed to cry out, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. But sorry isn't an explanation. Sorry isn't a reason. Sorry is nowhere near enough for this level of betrayal. I didn't even know what to say to her at that point. My world was spinning. I felt like I might either start screaming or collapse into tears myself. Maybe both. She kept repeating sorry, and I finally snapped. Stop saying you're sorry and just tell me why. I deserve to know why, Emily. She flinched at the volume of my voice and wiped her nose on her sleeve. I will. I promise. I'll explain. Please, can you sit down? Please? She begged, voice trembling. I realized I had been looming over her with my fists clenched again. I was so angry, but I never want to physically scare her. I took a step back and threw my hands up, exasperated. Fine. Explain. I'm listening, I said coldly, and that's when she finally started to tell me the truth. Her truth. I almost wish I hadn't asked, because what I learned broke me in a whole new way I didn't think was possible. We'll continue in Update 2. Update 2. I'm sorry it took a little while to write this final update. I've been a complete mess and needed time to even process what happened. Thank you to everyone who read and reached out. I wish I had a happier ending to share. I don't. When I left off, Emily had finally broken down and started telling me the truth. I was bracing myself, but nothing could truly prepare me for what she was about to say. Through her sobs, she confessed that she planted the camera because she thought I was cheating on her. That hit me like a truck. I actually let out a bitter laugh, because the idea was so absurd given how faithful I've been. Why the hell would you think I was cheating? I demanded. I was standing across the living room from her, arms folded, trying to keep my voice in check. Emily was shaking, tears pouring down her face. You've been so distant lately, she managed to say. You were coming home late, and you seemed secretive. Always on your phone, smiling at messages and then brushing it off when I asked. I was convinced you had someone else. I racked my brain. Yes, I had been a bit more busy and distracted these past weeks, but not because I was cheating. I was planning a surprise trip for our anniversary next month. I hadn't told her because, well, it was meant to be a surprise. The texting was with her sister and a travel agent, coordinating the details. I never imagined it could be misinterpreted this badly. I told her as much in a stunned whisper. I was planning an anniversary surprise for you. That's why I was on my phone more. That's why I was out longer some days. I was doing something for you, Emily. God! I ran a hand over my face. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All this, the camera, the lies, was because of a tragically wrong assumption. She looked absolutely crushed in that moment. I didn't know, she whispered. I thought maybe you were tired of me, that you found someone else. You've seemed so busy and stressed. I let out a sharp, bitter bark of laughter. So your solution was to put a hidden camera in our bedroom and spy on me? Not to talk to me, not to ask what's going on, but to violate my privacy and lie to me about it? I couldn't hold back the venom in my voice. Do you have any idea how insane that is, Emily? She sobbed harder, nodding weakly. I know it was wrong. I wasn't thinking straight. I was so scared to lose you that I did something awful. And once I started, I felt so guilty, but I didn't know how to undo it. And when you found the camera, I panicked and lied because I was terrified you'd hate me. I was shaking my head in disbelief. This was painful. This was too much. Part of me felt a tiny sliver of pity seeing her so miserable and afraid. But I was mostly just angry and hurt. My own wife didn't trust me enough to just talk to me. Instead, she snuck around and played CIA, but that wasn't even the worst of it. Her explanation didn't end there. Unfortunately, there was more. Emily took a few shuddering breaths, struggling with what to say next. I stood there silent, waiting for the other shoe to drop. She looked down at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. When I started thinking you were cheating, I didn't handle it well, she said haltingly. I was a mess. I confided in someone. A cold dread curled in my stomach. What do you mean, confided? With who? My mind was racing, trying to guess. Her voice was tiny. This guy. From my co-working space. We've been friendly. His name is Mark. I closed my eyes. I did not like where this was going. She continued, words tumbling out in a rush. We sometimes grab coffee after working at the same cafe. When I thought you were cheating, I leaned on him. He was a good listener. I was so hurt and paranoid. And one night I made a terrible mistake. I stood there, heart pounding, fists clenching and unclenching at my sides. Keep going, I said, voice barely above a whisper. I almost didn't want to hear the rest, but I had to. Emily was openly crying again, each word ragged. I slept with him. It was just once, I swear. She looked up at me, panic in her eyes. It was that night I told you I was working late. I was actually with him. It was a moment of weakness and confusion, and I regretted it immediately. I hated myself for it. And after that, I was even more sure you must be cheating too, because I thought if I could do something so awful, maybe you had already. I know it's crazy logic. I know it's all my fault. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut and the throat at the same time. My vision blurred. She kept talking, but I only caught pieces. Biggest mistake of my life. So sorry. Something inside me just broke. I think I let out a sound. A sort of strangled choke or sob. My legs gave out and I sank into the armchair behind me because I literally couldn't stand anymore. She immediately slid off the couch and knelt on the floor a few feet from me, reaching out like she wanted to touch me but stopping herself. Adam, I am so sorry, she cried. It meant nothing. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I wish I could take it back. I wish I had never doubted you. I've been living with this guilt every single day. That's why I wanted to catch you, to almost justify my guilt, which is so messed up, I know. But you never did anything. You were faithful and loving, and I'm a horrible person. I don't deserve you. I just stared at her through tears of my own. My heart felt like it had been put through a shredder. In the span of 24 hours, I discovered my wife had been spying on me, and that she had cheated on me with some guy named Mark. All because of a completely wrong assumption. Because she never talked to me. Because she let her fear and paranoia drive her to destroy our marriage. I couldn't even speak for a long time. I was just numb. I think she kept apologizing and begging, inching a little closer on her knees. At one point, she tentatively placed her hands on my knees, sobbing, Please, please, I'll do anything to make this right. I finally found my voice and whispered, Don't touch me. My tone must have been like ice because she withdrew her hands as if I'd slapped them. The silence that followed was suffocating. I just sat there, head in my hands, while she knelt on the floor and cried quietly. I felt like I was watching this happen to someone else. How could this be my life? How could the woman I love more than anything do this to us? After what felt like forever, I stood up. She looked up at me, eyes full of despair and remorse. Adam, please. I'll do anything. We can go to counseling. I'll earn your trust back. Please don't leave me. I love you so much. I couldn't listen to her anymore. Hearing her say she loves me while all I can picture is her with someone else, and that damn camera watching my every move, made me physically ill. I honestly thought I might throw up right there. I grabbed my car keys from the side table with a trembling hand. She realized what I was doing and her eyes went wide with panic. No, please don't go. She scrambled to her feet and tried to grab my arm. Please, we can fix this. Please don't leave me, please. I gently but firmly pulled my arm away. I was eerily calm at that point, just utterly drained. I can't be here right now, I said quietly. My voice sounded hollow. Where will you go? Please, let's talk. She was sobbing, reaching for me again. I stepped back, holding up a hand. I need time, I managed to say. My own tears were falling freely now. I can't even look at you, Em. I can't. The look on her face when I said that. It was pure agony. But I was beyond feeling sympathy. I was in survival mode. I turned and headed for the door. Behind me she was wailing, Adam, please, I'm sorry, I love you. Over and over, like a broken record. I opened the door. My vision was blurry with tears, but I didn't dare wipe them. I couldn't pause. If I stopped for even a second, I might cave. And I knew if I stayed, I'd only say things I could never take back. Or worse, do something stupid in anger. So I walked out. I left my wife crying on the floor of our living room, and I shut the door behind me. I could still hear her through the door, screaming my name in absolute anguish. It was the most gut-wrenching sound I've ever heard, and yet I kept walking. I made it to my car, threw the ladder and the camera equipment, which I'd grabbed on my way out, in the back seat, and drove away. I didn't have a plan. I just drove, sobbing, shaking, a complete wreck. It's been a couple of days since that happened. I'm staying at my brother's place for now. I haven't spoken to Emily except for a short text I sent to let her know I'm safe, and to please not call me for a while. She replied once, a long wall of text basically begging for forgiveness and asking for a chance to talk. I haven't replied. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do. Part of me wants to try and salvage the love I have for her, or had for her. But how can I? She violated my trust in one of the most intimate ways possible, and she betrayed our marriage vows. This is like cheating on steroids, with an extra layer of creepy spying involved. My friend, the lawyer, has kindly given me space, and also offered to help if I decide to start divorce proceedings. I haven't decided yet. My heart is shattered, and I'm still in shock. I'm oscillating between devastating sadness and white-hot anger. What I do know is that I can't go back to how things were. I can't unsee that footage of my wife installing a camera to spy on me. I can't unhear her confession of sleeping with another man. I can't just pretend everything's okay.